This week on ANN, members of the Executive Committee preview the 2020 session logo, get a sneak peek of the 2018 missionary book, and accept recommendations to designate leaders for prayer and revival and reformation throughout the church's global territories.
Registration opens for the church's annual Communication and Technology Conference. This year, attendees will be charged to help reach areas of the world with little to no Christian presence.
And leaders of China Hope TV celebrate its expansion into a new studio.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
Today we're continuing our coverage of last week's 2017 spring meetings.
To brush up on what takes place during spring meetings, here's what you need to know. Spring meetings are one of two annual gatherings of the Adventist Church's Executive Committee.
The Executive Committee is the second highest governing body of the Seventh-day Adventist Church after General Conference session, which occurs every 5 years.
In between sessions, the Executive Committee has the authority to act on behalf of the General Conference in session.
It has the power to appoint committees, employ personnel, elect or remove administrators, and effect the retirement of an elected or appointment position before the expiration of a term.
During spring meetings, the Executive Committee receives the audited financial reports of the General Conference and transacts regular Executive Committee business.
On the second and final day of the spring meetings, members of the Executive Committee heard a presentation of the logo for the 2020 General Conference in session.
Now, General Conference in session, or session as it's commonly referred to, is the highest governing body of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and meets every 5 years. But it also serves as a trade show of ministries and a chance for families and friends from all over the world to reunite through fellowship.
The presentation during spring meetings centered on the logo, which reflects the location of session, the city of Indianapolis in the U.S. state of Indiana.
Tanya Holland, who designed the logo and is also a native of Indiana, wanted to combine the 2020 session logo with Indiana's fame of hosting the Indianapolis 500, which is a car racing competition. That's why elements of the checkered flags used in the races can be found in the logo.
Holland also made the connection that we, as Christians, are also in a race to spread the gospel message to all parts of the world before the second coming of Jesus.
To learn more about General Conference session, the Executive Committee, and the church's governance, visit Adventist.org, click on Information, and then Meetings.
Members of the Executive Committee also previewed the church's 2018 missionary book. 2018 will mark the 12th year the Seventh-day Adventist Church has released an evangelistic book intended to get members involved with sharing the Advent message. Leaders say 400 million copies of the church's missionary books have been distributed in more than 50 languages worldwide. The 2018 missionary book is intended to address mental health, especially depression. The book is entitled The Power of Hope: Overcoming Depression, Anxiety, Stress, and Guilt. The Executive Committee prayed for the future impact of the book for those who will receive it. Publishing leaders are aiming to have the book translated into multiple languages before it's officially dedicated during the second yearly gathering of the Executive Committee in October Annual Council.
Our final news item from the 2017 spring meetings showcases the desire of leaders to have the church and all of its members understand the importance of prayer, Bible study, and a sincere connection with Christ. The Executive Committee voted in favor of the President of the Seventh-day Adventist Church's recommendation to create prayer ministry and revival and reformation coordinator roles for the church's 13 global territories. Ted Wilson recommended an existing leader should serve as a point person for matters relating to prayer and the church's study guides intended to help readers deepen their relationship with God. Leaders hope the creation of the role will help spur further engagement with Mission to the Cities, the church's comprehensive health ministries, and innovative youth ministries. The coordinators will report to the Revival and Reformation Committee Chair, General Vice President Jeffrey Mbwana, and its Secretary, Jerry Page. Prayer Ministry and Revival and Reformation coordinators will also work with the prayer coordinator for the church's world headquarters, Janet Page. Visit news.adventist.org to read more about the 2017 spring meetings.
Registration opened this week for the 2017 GAIN Conference. GAIN stands for Global Adventist Internet Network. The conference serves as a time for the church's communicators, technology professionals, and special guests to explore and discuss the best practices using technology to fulfill the church's mission. While previous GAIN conferences have taken place in Dubai, Hong Kong, Jamaica, and Washington, D.C., this year's GAIN will take place in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Attendees will be wired for mission from August 9 through 13. The conference will launch an unprecedented partnership with the church's mission study centers to reach the most populated areas of the world that also happen to have little to no Christian presence. The Director of Communication for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Williams Costa, Jr., has more.
The world is in constant change. And because of this change, we cannot ignore the fact that technology exists for us to share the good news of salvation. GAIN is the forum that we analyze and try to use those new features to share the good news that Jesus is the Savior.
Leaders of the denomination's Northern Asia Pacific Territory recently celebrated the opening of a new studio for Chinese Hope TV, or CHTV. The production center, based in Taipei, Taiwan, was filled with special guests from a local television station and health institutions of the church last month. The president of the church's territory, who also serves as the board chairperson for CHTV, Jairong Lee, was among those who attended and reflected on the station's humble beginning. CHTV got its start in a basement studio in 2007. The goal was and still is to produce comprehensive health content to reach the Chinese around the world. CHTV has produced more than 500 programs, many of which play on public channels in Taiwan. The channel also launched 24/7 broadcasts via satellite in July 2011. Those who witnessed the dedication of the new studio with state-of-the-art equipment were encouraged to hold fast to the faith of Jesus as they continue their outreach to the Chinese. The executive director of CHTV, Billy Liu, later said, "We sincerely pray that CHTV will be a tool in God's hand to reach millions of unreached people for His kingdom. Please continue to pray and support the CHTV ministry."
Nearly 40,000 people celebrated the culmination of a 7th-month intensive evangelism program that took place through the church's interoceanic Mexican territory. While 4 live satellite locations drew 30,000 people, the celebration's main setting took place in Minatitlan Convention Center in Veracruz, Mexico. The Lord Transform Me event was organized to highlight the results of the series, which began in October. More than 11,000 new believers joined the church, marking the success of member-led small group ministries throughout the territory. 6,000 people were baptized during the special ceremony on April 1. The program was broadcast by Hope Channel Inter-America's 3 channels in English, Spanish, and French. The organizer of the initiative, Balvin Brahm, also serves as assistant for evangelism to the president for the church's Inter-American region. While Brahm celebrated the numbers representing new believers, his thoughts were beyond the baptismal pool. Brahm said, "The initiative is not just about baptism, it's a holistic approach to the ministry, nurturing members, discipleship, and a personal commitment to the faith of Christ in the readiness for the second coming."
Organizers of a recent film festival in the church's North American territory said this year brought some of the best student filmmaking they've ever seen. More than 200 student and professional filmmakers and guests participated in the 2017 Sunscreen Film Festival.
This was the 17th year the festival has provided young filmmakers the chance to show their work, network with other filmmakers, and learn from professionals in the industry.
The Associate Director of Communication for the church's North American territory, Julio Munoz, also serves as the director of the Sunscreen Film Festival. Munoz said, "We want these students to grow artistically and to know that their films play an important part in sharing hope and making our world more inclusive."
The 3-day festival took place at Loma Linda University in the U.S. state of California. There were 39 official selections from students and groups representing several Adventist colleges, universities, and academies.
Those schools included Andrews University, Hawaiian Mission Academy, Loma Linda Academy, Southern Adventist University, Southwestern Adventist University, and Walla Walla University.
Visit sunscreen.com to learn more about the festival and to see a list of the winners.
Coming up, learn about a ministry that serves 4,000 people with disabilities every week in Romania.
But up next, humanitarians and medical professionals collaborate to create a new health clinic to serve refugees in Iraq.
I was driving in an unfamiliar area. The GPS that I was using was borrowed and the volume was not working on it. And so as I was watching it, I was having to just use the arrows to guide me. And I found that when I would need to make a turn, I would think it was the next turn because sometimes the blocks were so close together. Time was slipping away as I was being rerouted and rerouted again. And so I prayed, "God, please guide this GPS. Please get me to the airport." By 11 o'clock, I was just pulling in. On this journey here on earth, I found one of the greatest gifts from God to be the Holy Spirit. Throughout each day, He put songs and scriptures and stories or conversations in my path that comfort me, strengthen me, convict me, or give me a greater understanding of His love for me and those people around me as He transforms me to be more like Jesus. Naturally shy to speak to people, I'm thankful that He reveals what God would have me say or do in different situations. I'm most grateful that when I do get on the wrong path, He'll open my eyes to see it and convict me of it, and then He'll reroute me. Because of this, I can be confident that He will lead me to my heavenly destination one day.
Welcome back.
The Adventist Development and Relief Agency and Adventist Help have teamed up to create a health clinic in Hassan Sham U2 refugee camp in Erbil, Iraq.
Dr. Michael Van Horsten is among the 65 physicians and nurses who are eager to help the war-torn region.
Dr. Van Horsten has more from the camp's construction site.
Hi there, Michael here again from Hassan Sham U2 camp. I'm standing on location. We're on the location where we're going to be setting up our field emergency unit over the next 3 weeks. As you can see, the tents are going up really fast. The camp was supposed to open today, but the UNHCR is a little bit behind schedule with getting the camp up. But the tents are going up really quickly, and currently there are no medical facilities up inside the camp yet. So it's pretty important that we get this facility up as soon as we possibly can. As you can see, we've finished leveling the earth, and some ground prep has happened already. We've dug the septic tanks. And we're just finishing off the floor plan with the engineers, and we'll be starting construction of the caravans, of the prefab buildings in the next few days. The project is getting bigger and bigger. What started off as a 2-container small emergency clinic is now turning into an 8-container, 450 square meter clinic with 3 inpatient wards for men, women and children, a total of around 50 beds. That's what the need is locally, so we're just expanding to fill that need. This will still be the only emergency unit for all five camps in the Zone 1 cluster east of Mosul, with a collective population of 100,000 people. So we're really excited about this project. As you can see, we're really happy that the puzzle pieces are slowly fitting into place thanks to the support of so many of you. We still have a whole number of hurdles to cover. One of them being financial. We're still needing some funds to finish the caravan structures and to also to complete the cementing and the roofing. And then there'll be the ongoing issues of consumables and medicines, and hiring of local staff members to be able to make a sustainable facility for such a massive population. So we're still coveting a bit more support from everybody, and we'd like to encourage you, if you're keen to get involved, to just contact us. We're also needing volunteers. If there are any doctors, nurses, paramedics, physician assistants, psychologists, dentists out there, particularly people with a background of emergency medicine, we'd like to ask you to contact us and let us know when and if you're available. We really appreciate the people who have signed up already. We have about 65 nurses and doctors who are really waiting to come, and a whole lot more that are interested. And so this is turning into a really incredible project for ADRA and Adventist Help. We're looking forward to having all of you involved in the near future. Thanks so much.
For more information or to find ways you can help, visit AdventistHelp.org.
A renewed emphasis of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is to serve those living with special needs.
It is with this added mantra that the Rise and Walk Association, based out of Romania, has expanded its ministry to 20 locations.
The locations host more than 4,000 people a week who have a disability or desire to serve those with special needs.
The church's inter-European territory sent this report.
Rise and Walk is an association of people with disabilities, organized in Romania by George Uba, its current president, and pastor of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, by Aurel Burcea, its current vice president, and Daniel Constantin, the CEO of the association. The purpose of this association is to give dignity to special people who have lost the use of tongue, legs, eyes, hands, and even the respect of being treated as normal human beings. It is amazing to see these people with special needs as an example of how there are no limits that can hinder their desire to exist. In their weekly meetings, normally held on Saturdays and Sundays, there is an exchange of ideas along with individual performances like music, poetry, dialogues, songs, and messages of a great quality. Every year, a theme that inspires all activities that will be implemented along the year is chosen. Different programs are organized in original ways that foster joy of participation. Rise and Walk organizes a summer camp every year, which gathers more than 200 people. Participants are involved daily in Paralympic games, concerts, trips, specially organized for and with them, to encourage this special group and to strengthen their joy while helping them to forget the burden of their sufferings for a while. The Association Rise and Walk is also oriented to provide a strong involvement in a mission with and for people with disabilities. They prepare food for the homeless, they visit prisons and people in hospitals, and they offer counseling to other disabled or non-disabled people. There are more than 1 billion people in the world who in one way or another are diversely enabled. To reach all of them is only utopian, but fortunately many are the associations that work to give them back their dignity. Rise and Walk is an NGO that began in 2010 in Bucharest with 5 people. After 6 years, over 20 branches have been founded all over the territory, and 10 are in the process of being legalized. More than 4,000 people, including volunteers, meet every week to share a space where no one feels different. It takes very little, simply a lot of goodwill and a positive attitude to make you say without any hypocrisy, "Thank you for existing."
And finally, for the news this week, we're traveling to Sao Paulo to see how Easter was brought to life for 150 children.
Adja Brazil has more.
O Núcleo Adra de Desenvolvimento aqui de São Cristóvão, Unidade Adra Brasil, cuida de aproximadamente 150 crianças aqui nesse bairro. E nós contamos com a ajuda de parceiros.
A gente tem o prazer de doar e ver a esperança no olho de cada criança. A única coisa que a gente quer em troca é o sorriso e a felicidade de cada um.
A importância do projeto Cidinho é muito importante aqui no bairro, porque diversas crianças estão na rua, pelo menos estão no projeto, praticando várias atividades.
Coming up, find out what happened this week in Adventist history.
But up next, learn what lessons we can draw from the Waldensians who oftentimes had to worship in caves to escape persecution.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Elena et je suis en train de parler en français. Il y a beaucoup de vidéos très chouettes, mais pas beaucoup sont traduites. Vous pouvez aider.
Join the Amara translation and caption team today. Amara is easy to learn and fun. You can volunteer in your free time. Join this community today and provide great content in your language.
May I work in with you, young fella?
Yeah. Go for it.
That's the way you do it. Gotta put a little weight on it. Well, I'll put it back up here for you.
Welcome back.
For this week's episode of Lineage, gain a deeper understanding of the followers of God who lived in the Valley of Waldenses.
The Waldensians were hidden in the mountains, not only had to learn how to survive, but also how to continue to train up missionaries to carry out God's work.
Remember, you can always visit lineagejourney.com to learn more about this series.
In the early centuries, Rome would lay down the challenge. Either abide by how we want you to live, or leave your place of residence and leave your place of worship. And the Waldensians treasured God's word more than they treasured their home. And so they would leave and go up into the mountains. Life would not have been easy here in the Waldensian valleys. The children growing up would have had to learn very quickly the lessons of self-sacrifice and self-denial, frugality and economy. Their parents treasured these principles from the Bible, and they wished to bestow them upon their children. They treasured them so much that they retreated up here. And here in the mountains, they wanted to teach two things. Number one, they wanted to teach them purity of life based on God's word. And number two, they wanted to teach them to be a missionary and take the faith that they had and take it further afield than just the valleys in which they lived. And so they would have schools up here, and they would have places of worship, sometimes in caves, where they could teach their children and their young people how they could go out as missionaries and share this message. The Waldensians fervently believed in the Bible. They believed that they should follow it, and they treasured it. The Waldensians believed in the commandments of God that had been given through the Bible, and they sought to keep them. And they were often persecuted for their faith and had to retreat up to the higher valleys. And here in this place of worship, it's just a cave. Today, you come here, you have to creep down through the entrance to get in. The rock walls are on each side. But here in this cave, it's almost a sacred spot. It's a place where they would gather together for worship, but also at times they would gather together to hide from the Roman soldiers. To me, it's encouraging to know that even when they were scattered in the mountains, they would still find time to worship together. And I believe it's very important that we today meet together with fellow believers and worship. But the thing that stands out to me here in this place that's not that pretty by earthly standards. There's no gold-plated pulpit. There's no marble table. There's just rocks. They're wet. But it's the quietness and the peace and the simplicity and the purity of this place that is striking. Is that if these Waldensians would gather here, not just once, it wasn't just a one-off, it may have been repeatedly, it may have been over years, or may have been even over decades, that they would gather together to worship in caves like this that are dotted around these mountains. For us, church is so comfortable or so convenient. I'm sat on a cold rock, but oftentimes in church we sit on nice comfy chairs. The heating may be on, it may just be 5 miles from our house or just down the road, and yet sometimes we think, I'm not too keen to go. And I think back to myself, yourself, wherever we are. We have a time of relative peace, a time of relative freedom, where we can gather together and worship, where we can meet fellow believers. And my appeal is, don't waste the opportunities that you have. Don't be so comfortable or so convenient that we miss the opportunities that we do have. God has given us great opportunities now. Let's take advantage and use them and take this message to the world around us.
And finally for today's program, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history.
This week, Ellen G. White, co-founder of the Adventist Church, returns to the United States from the land down under.
Throughout this week and beyond, 116 years ago, in April 1901, the landmark 34th General Conference session met in Battle Creek, Michigan. It was the 31st, but last session to be held in Battle Creek. And it marked the end of an era in other ways as well. Ellen White had recently returned from Australia after nearly a decade of mission service. She is shown here addressing the delegates gathered in the Dime Tabernacle. And the evening before the session began, she spoke to church leaders and told them that organizational reform was essential. Now there must be a change, she declared, a change with this General Conference right here in its sitting. What can be done right here, what can be done right now. The session carried out an extensive reorganization of the 38-year-old church structure, which had been appropriate for a denomination limited to the northeast and midwest of the United States. But by 1901, Adventism had spread to every continent, and yet more remained to be done for the third angel's message to truly go global. A new structure was needed, one that was more responsive to local and regional needs, but that preserved unity and retained the General Conference authority on common points. This man, Arthur Daniels, who had worked closely with Ellen White as a missionary in the South Pacific, was elected General Conference president and implemented the new organizational model. It is essentially the one we still have today because it was a success. It fitted Adventism for truly worldwide mission, and church leaders and members responded. That was this week, a momentous one in Seventh-day Adventist history.
Thanks for watching A&N. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback and tell us how your church is making a difference in its community.
Be sure to capture plenty of video, footage, and photos, then write up a summary of the event's important details. And feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's a passage of good news from the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 3.
The passage says, "Commit your actions to the Lord, and your plans will succeed."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.